May webinar ako, Klingondale.
Session is called to order. The chair requests the Honorable Member of Parliament, Ustad Faiz Alauddin, to lead the chamber in the opening prayer.
وقال ربكم ادعوني استجب لكم اللهم اعنا ولا تعن علينا وانصرنا ولا تنصرنا ولا تنصرنا يا الله يا ارحم الراحمين اللهم صل انفسنا وسلم علينا وحبيبنا يا الله يا رب اللهم اجعلنا من المتقبلين فيك من المتعافين فيك متجاوزا فيك يا الله يا رب ربنا تقبل منا دعاءنا وتب علينا انك غفور رحيم صلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه وسلم ثم ربي
Please remain standing for the Philippine National Anthem and the Bangsamoro Hymn.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiliw, ewas ang silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyag ka ng magiting, sa mandulupin, di ka pasisigil, sa nagagang tutok sa simoy at sa langit ang bagaw, ay hinatang tulang awit sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang lang matawad mo'y tagumpay na naghihinig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pamay di maghihinig. Lumalang araw ng waragin pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Ang inigaya na pagkay mga amin, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Simula noon hanggang ngayon, isa ang naging layon. Magkaisa ang makulong, kagitingan ay marunong. Tumayo tayo mula sa hamon ng nakaraan, niyapos ang panganib na umalang. Pinangako sa puso at paniniwala, ang ginhawang para sa kabataan. Bangsamoro ay tagumpay, bunga ng pawis, sugo at buhay. Kapayapaan, katarungan, ay atin ang nakamtan. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, pagpalain
Secretariat, please proceed with the roll call.
The honorable members of the Parliament, the Honorable Abbas Ahmad,
Present.
Abbas Harod, Abbas Zulkarnain, Abbas Basit Sarif, Abu Majid,
Present.
Adiel Jaur Rahman Alonto,
Present.
Ahang Abdullah, Alamia Laisa,
Present.
Alauddin Faiz, Ali Ibrahim, Ali Lanang Jr., Ali Edi Mapag, Ali El Cesar, Amboloto Suarto, Ampatuan Baitan, Anayatin Susana,
Present.
Asmawel Masama, Balindong Ali Pangalian, Bara Hamid Aminuddin, Basman Anna Tarhata,
Present.
Burahan Kandao Bay Maleha,
Present.
Present. Present.
Damdamun Latif Maysara,
Present.
Diamla Musa,
Present.
Ipatuan Saprula,
Present.
Ibrahim Nahod, Ismail Haji Abdulaziz,
Present.
Gayak Abdullah, Gera Edward, Hasim Abdullah,
Present.
Hassan Atimil, Iqbal Muager, Ismail Rasul,
Present.
Jajuri Raisa,
Present.
Jakilan Muslimin,
Present.
Karon Baino, Lidasan Mussolini, Loong Don Mustafa, Lorena Jose Ribani, Makakwa Abdurao, Makapaar Abdullah, Makaraya Jamel, Makasalong Marjani, Mangoda Dato Kadafe,
Present. Present. Present.
Mantawil Malik,
Present.
Mastura Dato Tokaw, Mastura Siti Syara, Mawali Lamil Bahar,
Present.
Mitimbang Dato Pantaw, Mitbog Rasul, Mujahid Abdul Muhmin,
Present.
Munoz Hussein, Oranon Soib, Makasa Mabaida,
Present.
Pak Abdul Wahab, Pangandaman Nabila Margarita,
Present.
Ramos Jamila,
Present.
Rimbang Edrisa Nasser, Sakar Mudayaw, Salendab Said, Sali Al-Sheikh, Saliga Romeo, Salik Ali, Sanki Ali, Sani Punduma, Satar Al-Sad,
Present.
Sema Omar Yasser, Sema Romeo, Sheikh Said,
Present.
Silongan Aida,
Present.
Sulaiman Ali, Tago Paisalin,
Present. 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 Present.
Han Nabil,
Present.
Uja Sahi, Ulama Melanio. Usman Safar. Jacob Muhammad.
Present.
UAK Narciso.
Recording in progress.
Mr. Speaker, on the basis of our roll call, out of the 78 members of the BJ Parliament, 20 physically responded to the call and 36 MPs responded via Zoom. Mr. Speaker, we have a total of 56 members of the Parliament responded both physical and virtual. We therefore certify, Mr. Speaker, that there is presence of quorum. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
With 56 members responded to the roll call, constituting a quorum as certified by the Secretary General, this Parliament will now proceed with the conduct of its official business. Now recognize the distinguished Majority Leader, MP Attorney Lanong Ari Jr.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Speaker of the Bangsamoro Parliament, Attorney Ali Pangalian Balintong, Honorable Deputy Speaker and now Presiding Officer, MP Zia Rahman Alonto Adjo, Honorable members of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, those who are physically present and those who are in Zoom, visitors, Secretariat, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mr. Speaker, we are now on item number 6, reading and approval of journal of the previous session. Mr. Speaker, I move to dispense with the reading of journal number 50 of January 26, 2020, and I further move for the approval of this, Mr. Speaker.
There's a motion that reading and approval of the reading and approval of the journal of the previous session. The motion of the Majority Leader has been seconded. Before we act on the motion, what's the pleasure of MP Paisalintago?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, it seems that there is a clerical error on the journal. The journal is supposed to be January 26, 2021, not January 26, 2020. Because I'm particular of the date, Mr. Speaker, because that's the date when we are elected as deputy. I was elected as deputy majority leader, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. May we request the Secretary General to confirm if there was indeed a clerical error in relation to the date reflected in the OB. Before the Parliament will act on the motion, is there a clerical error? I believe the date is very important in the determination of all the resolutions and the bills we adopted in the Parliament. So we would like to confirm whether it was indeed a clerical error as reflected in the OB. May we ask the Secretary General to confirm it on record?
It was already corrected, Mr. Speaker. It was reflected 2021.
The month is January.
Can you please...
January 20, the year.
Yes, Mr.
Previously,
Speaker, this is a clerical error. I confirm to the journal division. In the OB it is 2020, but in the journal that was distributed is 2021.
So let it be on record that the journal that we will approve today and we will dispense with its reading is journal number 50 dated January 26, 2020. So again, the motion of the Majority Leader has been seconded. The reading of the journal of the previous session has been dispensed with and moved that it be adopted subject to style. Majority Leader?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, when we proceed.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker.
What's the pleasure? Yes, what's the pleasure of the gentleman from Lumbabayabao in Cotabato City, MP Ras?
Mr. Speaker, I heard you earlier that we were waiting for the order of business. If we can be provided dito po sa Zoom, maskin ma-link po sa chat group. If pwede po, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, well, we will request, that's the prerogative and privilege of all the members present today. We will ask the Secretariat to flash the OBs and send them through email. All the members who are now present online, please provide them the copies of the order of business in today's session. Thank you, MP Ras. Majority Leader, please proceed.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, may we now proceed to item number 7, resolution. May we request the Secretary General to read the first proposed resolution number 508, Mr. Speaker.
The Secretary General is requested to read the title of PR 508, the author and the co-authors.
Mr. Speaker, on the proposed resolution number 508 is entitled, "A resolution urging the Office of the Chief Minister to recommend representatives of the Bangsamoro government to the governing boards of government-owned and controlled corporations operating within the jurisdictions of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region." Authored by the Honorable Member of the Parliament, Baintan Adil Ampatuan. Co-authored by the Honorable Members of the Parliament, Liza Alamia, Amil Bahar Mawalil, Rasul Mitmug Jr., Suharto Ambuludto, and Don Mustafa Iloong, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move to treat this as simple resolution and be transferred for the business of the
There's
day.
a motion that proposed resolution number 508 be treated as simple resolution. Is there an objection? Is this has been seconded? PR number 508 is treated as simple resolution and shall be included in the business for the day.
Mr. Speaker, may we request the Secretary General to read the next proposed resolution number 510, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary General is requested to read the title of PR 510, including the name and names and of co-author and the author and the co-authors.
Mr. Speaker, proposed resolution number 510 is entitled, "A resolution commending the Senate of the Republic of the Philippines for approving Senate Bill 2214 on the third reading." Authored by the Honorable Member of the Parliament, E.D. Ali. Co-authored by the Honorable Members of the Parliament, Muhagir Iqbal, Abdurrahuf Makakwa, Lanang Ali Jr., Hatimil Hassan, Omar Yasir Sema, Zair Rahman Alonto Ajung, Maysara Latif, Harun Abbas, Amir Bahar Mawalil, Al-Shaid Sadi, Safrullah Dipatuan, Don Mustafa Luong, Paisalin Tago, Bainon Karon, Jamila Ramos, Susana Anayatin, Abdul Muhmin Mujahid, Mujib Abu, Azfar Usman, Cesar Alil, Baymaleha Kandaw, Sahi Uja, and Rasul Ismail, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I move to treat this as simple resolution and be transferred for the business of the day.
There's a motion to treat PR 510 a simple resolution and shall be included in the order in the business for the day. No objection. It has been seconded. PR 510 is hereby treated as simple resolution and shall be included in the business for the day.
Mr. Speaker, may we request the Secretary General to read the next proposed resolution?
Secretary General, please read the next proposed resolution, the title, the authors.
Mr. Speaker, proposed resolution number 511 is entitled, "Resolution calling the Office of the Chief Minister to provide financial assistance to the frontline healthcare workers in the BARM who are hospitalized due to COVID-19 infection." Authored by the Honorable Member of the Parliament, Baintan Adil Ampatuan. Co-authored by the Honorable Members of the Parliament, Liza Alamia, Amir Bahal Mawalil, Rasul Mitmug Jr., Suharto Ambuludto, and Don Mustafa Luong, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I move to treat this as simple resolution and be transferred for the business of the day.
The motion that PR 511 be treated as simple resolution and therefore be included in the business for the day. Is there any objection? Hearing none, PR 511 is transferred to the business of the day for the day and shall be treated as simple resolution.
May we request the Secretary General to read the next proposed resolution, Mr. Speaker?
Secretary General is so directed.
Mr. Speaker, on the next proposed resolution is proposed resolution number 5112. It's entitled, "A resolution requesting the Senate of the Philippines to prioritize the compensation bill for Marawi." Authored by the Honorable Member of the Parliament, Baintan Ampatuan. Co-authored by the Honorable Members of the Parliament, Liza Alamia, Amil Bahar Mawalil, Rasul Mitmug Jr., Suharto Ambuludto, and Don Mustafa Iloong, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I move to treat this as simple resolution and be transferred for the business of the day.
There's a motion that PR 12, PR 512 be treated as simple resolution and therefore be included in the business for the day. No objection. PR 112 is hereby treated as simple resolution shall be included in the business for the day.
May we request the Secretary General to read the next proposed resolution, PR number 513, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary General is so directed.
Mr. Speaker, on the next proposed resolution is proposed resolution number 513, entitled A Resolution Congratulating and Commending Justice Jafar B. Dimaampaw on his appointment as the 191st Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the Philippines and for being the second Muslim magistrate to serve in the High Tribunal. Authored by the Honorable Members of the Parliament, Amil Bahar Mawalil, Siti Shahara Mastura, Rasul Mitmug Jr. Co-authored by the Honorable Members of the Parliament, Baintan Ali Lampatuan, Laisa Alamia, Suharto Ambuludjo, Don Mustafa Luong, and Jayo Rahman Alonto Adjong, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I move to treat this as simple resolution and be transferred for the business of the day.
The motion that PR 513 be treated as simple resolution will be included in the business for the day. Any objection? Hearing none, PR 1513 is treated as simple resolution shall be included in the business for the day.
Mr. Speaker, may we request again the Secretary General to read the next proposed resolution, PR number 514.
Secretary General, please read.
Sir Speaker, on the sixth proposed resolution is proposed resolution number 514, entitled Resolution Extending Heartfelt Thanks and Profound Gratitude to President Rodrigo Roa Duterte for appointing Court of Appeals Justice Jafar B. Dimaampaw as newly appointed Associate Justice of Supreme Court of the Philippines. Authored by the Honorable Member of the Parliament, Mudayaw Sakar, co-authored by the Honorable Members of the Parliament, Safrula Dipatuan, and Ziaw Rahman Alonto Adjong, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I move to treat this as simple resolution and be transferred for the business of the day.
There's a motion that PR 514 be treated as simple resolution will be included in the business for the day. Any objection? Hearing none, PR 514 is treated as simple resolution and be transferred to the business for the day.
Mr. Speaker, we proceed to the next agenda. We are on item number 8, first stage of this. May we request the Secretary General to read the first Parliament bill for today's session, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary General, please read proposed Bill 123, the title and the author.
Mr. Speaker, proposed bill number 123 is entitled An Act Establishing a 25-bed municipal hospital in the municipality of Butig, province of Lanao del Sur, and appropriating funds therefore. Authored by the Honorable Member of the Parliament, Maysara Dandamon Latif. Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, this is a private member bill. Any members of the Parliament who signify their interest as co-authors may just fill up the pieces of paper that was distributed before this session, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we'll
but
proceed.
before that, I'd like to associate myself with the bill and I'd like to express my intention to be a co-author of proposed bill number 123. Thank you, Majority
Mr.
Leader.
Speaker, we proceed. We are on number 2. May we request the Secretary General to read the next proposed bill, or BTA Parliament Bill number 125.
Secretary General, please read.
Mr. Speaker, on proposed bill number 125 is entitled An Act Creating Maluso Infirmary Hospital with 15-bed capacity in the municipality of Maluso, province of Basilan, defining its service capacity, organization, functions, and operational responsibilities, appropriating funds therefore, and for other purposes. Authored by the Honorable Members of the Parliament, Abdul Muhmin Mujahid, Julkarnain Abbas, Laisa Alamia, Muslimin Jakilan, Al-Sad Satar, Hatimil Hassan, Muslima Asmawil, and Faiz Alauddin, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, this is a private member bill. Any member of the Parliament who signified their interest as co-authors may fill up a form that was distributed before this session, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we proceed on item number 9, second stage of bills.
May I, Majority Leader, may I request for 1 minute suspension?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Session suspended. Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we are now on item number 9, second stage of bills. We are on number 1, proposed bill number 76. May we respectfully recognize the principal author, MP Saprola Di Patuan, to deliver his sponsorship speech on proposed BTA Parliament Bill number 96, Mr. Speaker.
The distinguished gentleman from Ganasi, MP Safrula Di Patuan, is recognized to deliver his sponsorship speech.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Floor Leader. My courtesies to all the honorable MPs present in this chamber and those in the Zoom. I am privileged to rise before you as main sponsor of this proposed bill number 96, entitled an act establishing the Alim Abdulaziz Mimbantas Memorial Hospital as a level 1 50-bed capacity hospital, Masyo, Lanao del Sur, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. Mr. Speaker, our to life shall be attainable through the prompt intervention of excellent and affordable medical services. The Bangsamoro government shall protect and promote the right to health of the people and instill health consciousness among them. It shall also uphold the people's right to have access to essential goods, health, and other social services that promote their well-being. The Parliament shall enact appropriate legislations towards this end. Unquote. Of basic health care delivery is one of the top 5 main priority thrusts of our interim Chief Minister, Al-Hajj Murad Ibrahim, in order that our long-suffering people will be able to immediately feel the gains of the peace process. The action, therefore, of this representation is in pursuance of the realization of our role as legislators that craft laws for the achievement of the objectives of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Government headed by our beloved interim Chief Minister. On a personal note, as a physician, member of Parliament, and as chairman of the Committee on Health, it is my dream to establish well-manned and well-equipped hospital in strategic locations in the 5 provinces, cities, and other geographic areas under BARM, as I believe that this is the concrete legacy that our people will cherish and remember for a long time. This will also be part of the most strategic responses of BARM to confront the COVID-19 pandemic, which we don't expect to be over soon, considering the emergence of new and highly transmissible strains. The proposed Alim Abdulaziz Mimbantas Memorial Hospital will serve the municipalities of Masyo, Onabayabao, Butig, Lumbayanagi, Lumbatan, Sultan Dumalundong, and Lambakaw Nayan with a total population of 124,740. Once this hospital is established, it will result to the decongestion of the Tamparan District Hospital, an improvement of healthcare delivery in general, and hospital services in particular in these underserved municipalities of Lanao del Sur. Aside from the distant location of Tamparan District Hospital, from these far-flung municipalities, the limited capabilities of this hospital is not enough to cater the needs of the residents therein. And in this, I am appealing to you, Mr. Speaker, to the Honorable Interim Chief Minister, and to all my colleagues in this august chamber to stand for the right of our people to be provided with basic health services and support the immediate passage of this proposed legislation, which will redound to the welfare and well-being of our BARM constituents. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yes, Mr.
Thank
Speaker,
you,
we
Mr.
proceed
Speaker.
to number 2, PT Proposed Parliament Bill number 97. Again, Mr. Speaker, may we respectfully recognize the principal author, MP Saprola Dipatuan, to deliver his sponsorship speech on BT Parliament Bill number 97, Mr. Speaker.
For the second stage appreciation of proposed bill number 97, we once again recognize the distinguished gentleman from Ganasi, MP Safrula Dipatuan, to deliver to us his sponsorship speech.
Once again, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Majority Floor Leader. And once again, my courtesies to all the honorable MPs present in this chamber and those in the Zoom. I am honored to rise before you as main sponsor of this proposed bill number 97, entitled an act establishing the Gajali Jafar Memorial Hospital as a level 1 50-bed capacity hospital in Sultan Kudarat, Maguindanao, appropriating funds therefore and for other purposes. Mr. Speaker, as I have said, our very own BOL or Republic Act 11054, otherwise known as the Bangsamoro Organic Law, provides that the Bangsamoro government shall adopt a policy on health and that provides for a comprehensive and integrated health service delivery for its constituents. It shall establish by law a general hospital system to serve the health requirements of its people, to ensure that the individual basic right to life shall be attainable through the prompt intervention of excellent and affordable medical services. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, improvement of basic health care delivery is one of the top 5 main priority thrusts of our interim Chief Minister, Alhaj Murad Ibrahim, in order that our long-suffering people will be able to immediately feel the gains of this peace process. The action, therefore, of this representation is in pursuance of the realization of our role as legislators that craft laws for the achievement of the objectives of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Government headed by our beloved Interim Chief Minister. The proposed Gachali Jafar Memorial Hospital will serve the residents of the municipalities of Sultan Kudarat, Sultan Mastura in the province of Maguindanao, and the barangays in Pigkawayan, North Cotabato that opted to join BARM during the plebiscite for the BOL. Furthermore, as a government that is established as a product of the blood, sweat, and tears of the Mujahideen, of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front and Moro National Liberation Front, it is but fitting for the BTA to honor and recognize the heroism of at least some of our departed senior leaders, such as the late Gachali Jafar, Vice Chairman for Political Affairs of the Imayalev Central Committee and former Chairman of the Bangsamoro Transition Commission. And in this, I am appealing to you, Mr. Speaker, to the Honorable Interim Chief Minister, and to all my colleagues in this august chamber to stand for the right of our people to be provided with basic health services and support the immediate passage of this proposed legislation, which will redound to the welfare and well-being of BARM constituents. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mr.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you. Thank you,
Yes,
MP.
Mr. Speaker, we proceed. We are on BTA Parliament Bill number 124. May we respectfully recognize MP Jamila Ramos to deliver the sponsorship speech of this particular bill, Mr. Speaker.
The lady from Tamparan, Wato, Kabuntalan, Maguindanao is recognized, MP Jamila Ramos.
A'udhu billahi minash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Chief Minister Ahod Balawag Ibrahim, our Deputy Chief Ministers, Parliament Speaker Attorney Pangalian Balindong, Deputy Speakers, Deputy Majority Floor Leader Attorney Lanang Ali, Deputy Minority Floor Leader Attorney Liza Alamia, fellow members of the parliaments, constituents of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. As a vehicle for equity, social justice, and economic development, cooperatives have the most potential in improving the economic status of the Bangsamoro people. Cooperativism is where the different economic actors, namely the households, the enterprises, the financial institutions, and the government intersect and work together for societal goals stated in the 1987 Constitution and the Bangsamoro Organic Law. Members of the households, particularly those who have very limited or minuscule capital, organize themselves to form cooperatives, pool their resources, and establish enterprises and financial institutions that produce marketable goods and services. The government, through Republic Act number 9520 for the Philippine Cooperative Code of 2008, Republic Act number 7160 for the Local Government Code of 1991, Executive Order numbers 95 and 96 series of 1993, and now through the Bangsamoro Cooperative and Social Enterprise Code, grants preferential rights to cooperatives on various programs, projects, services, and facilities, and provides them with tax exemptions and other privileges, government assistance, and support system. It is also said that the most construction development of conflict-affected areas is through cooperation. This is also particularly true in the economic aspect. Cooperation among community members will ensure the viability and sustainability of their enterprises. In 2016, after 20 years of the evolution of cooperative regulation and development, more than 5,000 cooperatives in the autonomous region were registered, which was during that year comprising about 20% of the country's 25,000 cooperatives. With the peace and development programs of the government back then, more than 2,000 of such cooperatives were registered with assistance from the Pamayanang Mapayapa at Basagana or Pamana program and the Armed Health Education Peace and Governance Synergy or HELPS program. Before the turnover of ARM to the Bangsamoro Transition Authority in March 2019, more than 6,000 cooperatives have been registered by then ARM Cooperative Development Authority. This year, the Bangsamoro Cooperative and Social Enterprise Authority have registered more than 12,000 cooperatives. That is double the number of registered cooperatives in just 2 years. The number of cooperative registrations is a great milestone because cooperatives are seen as a real solution and proactive approach in resolving recurring issues such as poverty, hunger, underdevelopment, and lack of opportunities, including peace and security issues. However, registration as a lone indicator is insufficient. We also need to regulate and develop the registered cooperatives and ensure that they are operational, compliant, viable, sustainable, and globally competitive. Fortunately, with the enactment of Republic Act number 110454, the Bangsamoro government was empowered to exercise authority over cooperatives and social enterprises. Article 13, Section 24 of the Organic Law states that to achieve equity, social justice, and economic development, the Bangsamoro government shall encourage and support the building up of entrepreneurial capability in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region and shall recognize, promote, protect, and support the development of cooperatives and other medium, small, and micro enterprises. It shall also adopt and implement cooperative development policies and programs through the enactment of the Bangsamoro Cooperative Code. So on October 24, 2020, we filed resolution number 331 series of 2020 calling for Parliament to implement Section 24, Article 13 of the Bangsamoro Organic Law and enact the Bangsamoro Cooperative Code and provide responsive programs and services to our cooperatives. Another good news is the establishment of the Cooperative and Social Enterprise Authority by virtue of Bangsamoro Autonomy Act number 13 or the Bangsamoro Administrative Code. With this, the mandate and functions of the authority have been comprehensively improved, particularly on the developmental aspect, to wit, the Cooperatives and Social Enterprise Authority with all the branches, subdivisions, instrumentalities, and agencies of the Bangsamoro government shall ensure the provision of technical guidance, financial assistance, and other services to enable the cooperatives and social enterprises to develop into viable and responsive economic enterprises and be platforms for poverty reduction. That's Section 58 of the Bangsamoro Administrative Code. The inclusion of social enterprise regulation and development in the authorities to be exercised by the Bangsamoro government by virtue of the Bangsamoro Organic Law and the Bangsamoro Administrative Code will tremendously benefit our constituents, inshallah, given the role of social enterprises in the development, funding, and implementation of solutions to social, cultural, or environmental issues. This being said, it is therefore with great humility and honor to present to you Parliament Bill number 124, entitled An Act Providing for the Bangsamoro Cooperative and Social Enterprise Code of 2021 for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. This bill includes provisions that are unique, peculiar, and responsive to the needs of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. It is aligned with the government of the day's priority agenda number 4, for example, to set up and implement programs and projects that will respond to the pressing social and economic challenges in the Bangsamoro, such as poverty, education, health, access to clean water and electricity, job opportunity, agricultural productivity, and access to capital market. It is also aligned with goal number 3 of the Bangsamoro Development Plan, which is to create a favorable environment for inclusive and sustainable economic development. Parliament Bill number 124 also enacts Section 27 of the Bangsamoro Organic Law, where the Bangsamoro government shall recognize, protect, and promote the establishment of cooperative enterprises. It shall likewise encourage and promote social entrepreneurship as a means to engage the private sector to assist in the development, funding, and implementation of solutions to social, cultural, or environmental issues. As a landmark legislation, the bill includes unique provision on Sharia governance and Sharia compliance for both the cooperatives and social enterprises. This will ensure that we have a window for those cooperatives and social enterprises that choose to operate based on Sharia and Islamic principles. The bill also includes principles and responsive regulatory and developmental provisions on social entrepreneurship, which is a new sector being developed, not just in the region, but also in the entire country. It further includes intergovernmental relations on cooperatives and social enterprises to address issues and institute enabling measures to ensure that the region will not be left behind or will not be below national standards in terms of regulation and development of cooperatives and social enterprises. The principal authors and co-authors are hopeful that the Parliament will be able to allot equitable funds to ensure that not only the cooperatives but also the social enterprises will be responsibly regulated, supported, and developed by the authority and other instrumentalities of the government. And we hope that we can pass this bill, inshallah. Maraming salamat po. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wa assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Thank you, MP
Yes, Mr.
Ramos.
Speaker.
Maybe before we
proceed, Mr. Speaker.
yes, I think you need to refer
Yes,
all
Mr.
those
Speaker.
bills to the proper committees.
On the PTA Parliament Bill number 96 and 97, Mr. Speaker, I move to refer this to the Committee on Health, Mr. Speaker.
So Parliament Bill number 96 and 97 is referred to the Committee on Health.
Mr. Speaker, I move to refer the PTA Parliament Bill number 124 to the Committee on Committee on
Rules.
No, Mr. Speaker.
Trade and Industry.
That's Trade and Investment, Mr. Speaker. Committee on what is the
PTA Bill number 124.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Committee on Trade and Committee on Investment, Trade and Tourism, Mr. Speaker.
All right. PTA Bill number 124 is referred to the Committee on Trade, Investment, and Tourism.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
Yes, what's the inquiry of the lady from Tugaya?
We would like to know. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May we know if we are allowed to ask some question at this second stage, or are our rules already amended that we are no longer allowed to ask questions?
Mr. Speaker, we are no longer allowed to ask questions during the second stage of bills, as amended, Mr. Speaker, in our parliamentary rules and procedures, Mr. Speaker.
MP Latif, do you have further? Anyway, you can ask those questions once the committee will convene and discuss this particular bill.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Speaker?
Because, yes, thank you very much for that, because we have to at least know that at the second stage we already amended our rules, so it would be now in the incumbent for any interpellator to ask their questions directly in the committee wherein which this bill has been referred to.
Yes,
thank you. I think perhaps the only discussion that would be accommodated or be detained during the second stage is those members who are asking or willing to signify their intent to be co-authors. I believe that is allowed. But as to the question and answer or the interpellation, that would be that would be entertained in the committee level, Your Honor. Majority Leader?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Yes,
Mr. Speaker.
MP Tago, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from Lanao, MP Tago, is recognized.
Because, Mr. Speaker, my parliamentary inquiry is that the three bills that was for second stage, all of the bills speaks of appropriating funds. Therefore, are we not going to refer this to the Committee on Finance, Mr. Speaker, as a secondary committee?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I share the idea of MP Paisalan Tago, so therefore I move to refer all those three bills also to the Committee on Finance, Budget and Management.
Okay, for the record, there was a motion to refer the proposed bill number 96, 97, and 124 also to the Committee on Finance and Appropriation. Is there any objection? Okay, those bills are now referred to the Committee on Finance and Appropriation. Thank you, MP Tago.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we proceed to the business for the day. We are on PR number 508, Mr. Speaker. May we respectfully recognize the principal proponent, Mr. Speaker, MP Painta ng Patuan, to give an initial statement on this particular.
The distinguished lady from Maguindanao, the Honorable Deputy Minority Leader, MP Engineer Baintan Adel Ampatuan, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Mr. Speaker, esteemed colleagues in this August Parliament, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. It is my honor to sponsor proposed resolution number 508, entitled Resolution Urging the Office of the Chief Minister to recommend representatives of the Bangsamoro government to the governing boards of government-owned and controlled corporations operating within the jurisdiction of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. Section 31, Article 6 of Republic Act 11054, or the Bangsamoro Organic Law, provides that the Bangsamoro government shall have the authority and control over existing GOCCs operating exclusively in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region after determination by the Intergovernmental Fiscal Policy Board of their feasibility. Section 32 of the same article provides that the Bangsamoro government shall be represented in the board of directors or in the policymaking bodies of the GOCCs that operate substantial portion of their businesses directly or through their subsidiaries in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, or where the Bangsamoro government has a substantial interest. The IFB was created to address revenue imbalances and fluctuations in regional financial needs and revenue-raising capacity of the Bangsamoro government. It is imperative to this Parliament to urge the Office of the Chief Minister to recommend representatives to the governing boards of GOCCs operating within the Bangsamoro region, since the dividends from the Bangsamoro GOCCs and other corporations and share from the dividends of national government-owned and controlled corporations and their subsidiaries in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, as may be determined by Intergovernmental Fiscal Policy Board, are some of the resources or revenues of the Bangsamoro government. For this reason, I humbly recommend that this Parliament concur with this proposed resolution. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of interpellation and debate.
Period of interpellation and debate is hereby open.
Mr. Speaker.
MP
May I-
Sara Latif, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, before I recognize MP Latif, I have just a simple question. Does the author only limit the GOCCs to Amana Bank and I believe to Amana Bank and the SPDA?
No,
And
Mr. Speaker, it's just a citation of what is provided in the law, but it encompasses all the GOCCs operating in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region.
including those health services, meaning the PhilHealth.
Yes, there are lists of GOCCs we obtained from the GPBB, and
Okay.
a lot of them are operating in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region.
Thank you. The lady from Tugaya, MP Lamdaman Latif, you may proceed.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'd wish to probably propose an amendment that the enumeration not be limited to SPDA only and Al-Amana Bank, considering that we also have substantial participation in NAPOCOR for the operation of the Agus hydroelectric plant. And that has been substantially discussed during the bicameral conference in the Senate and Congress during the passage of the BOL. So I would like to inquire if we can amend this, because if we mention only two institutions, this might not include other institutions like the NAPOCOR and other government-owned and controlled corporations that are operating in the Bangsamoro region.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, it's still open for amendment, although as I've mentioned, this covers GOCCs operating in the BARM, but there was special mention of the two because it was specifically provided under the BOL. But the intention of the GOCC, of the resolution actually is those GOCCs operating in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region.
Thank you,
Still
Mr.
have the
Speaker.
floor, MP Damdaman Latif.
I will propose an amendment during the period of amendment.
Thank you. Any other interpellator?
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, MP Tago, Mr. Speaker.
Who?
manifestation and
MP
query
Tago is
to the-
recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Manifestation and query to the lady from Maguindanao, MP Baintan, if she is willing to answer my questions.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, the resolution speaks only of the diocese within the BARM. Pwede ba, Mr. Speaker, if the lady is willing and the Yugos body is willing, pwede ba natin isama yung mga state universities and colleges? Because they are also provided for in the Bangsamoro Organic Law. Not only dioceses but state universities and colleges na dapat may membro coming from the BARM. Is that possible in the resolution, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, I'm afraid that it should be covered by another resolution since it talks about education and the academic institutions.
So we will make another resolution for that matter. Follow ko lang sa tanong kanina para ma-clarify tanong kanina ni Emi Paisara. Yung pag-specify dun sa SPCB Amana, hindi lang Amana at saka SPD, all dioceses within the BARM, dapat magtalaga tayo ng board of directors. All dioceses within the BARM. Is that the intention of the sponsor, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, under one of the whereases specifically mentioned that whereas Section 32 of the same article, under Article 12 in the BOL, provides that the Bangsamoro government shall be represented in the board of directors or in policy-making bodies of GOCCs that operate substantial portion of their business directly or through their subsidiaries in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region or where Bangsamoro government has a substantial interest.
Thank you very much for that clarification. So I have no further question, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, MP Tago. MP Romeo Saliga, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have some clarification with the proponent, Mr. Speaker, if she will respond to this.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed.
Yes, you have mentioned that this GOCCs, the representation on policy making bodies, and when we look at the title, we are urging the chief ministers. Do you think that the parliament, being the policy making bodies of the Bangsamoro government, have a role also in, let's say, in identifying those who will be sitting or who will be representing the Bangsamoro government in the different GOCCs?
I think it can be done, although at this moment, Mr. Speaker, what can be doable is that we try to look at the existing GOCCs first and if assess it, and later on, if the government of the day wishes to include the BTA Parliament in the recommendations as to the particular GOCCs where we could be represented. I think that's an internal arrangement within by the BTA Parliament and the government of the day. But this one calls already for a policy that the executive should already look into it and work on it in the execution of the particular provision of the law or the BOL.
Yes, thank you for that response from the proponent, Mr. Speaker, because I do believe that now with the parliamentary form that we have in the governance, I see it very importantly for the member of the parliament to have a role in especially in identification and in the nomination, shall I call it, of the Bangsamoro government who will be represented in the different GOCCs, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, I don't think we have a question in it, Mr. Speaker.
I think that's a question, just a manifestation, Mr. Speaker. That
Okay.
I would really want the Parliament to have a role in this, in the identification of
Maybe you would-
Bangsamoro government to the.
Maybe the distinguished gentleman from Maguindanao wishes to introduce that amendment. If so willing, we can discuss that in the period of amendment. Thank you very much, MP Saliga.
Yes, MP
Majority
Eddie
Leader.
Ali, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman, distinguished gentleman from Tawi-Tawi, MP Professor Eddie Ali is recognized, to be followed by the gentleman from Maguindanao, MP Ali Sanki.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Floor Leader. As a parliamentary protocol, is the proponent, Mr. Speaker, willing to respond to some clarificatory questions?
Gladly, Mr. Speaker.
The title of the resolution refers to government-owned and controlled corporations. Mr. Speaker, Madam Proponent, are you referring to only business corporations?
Mr. Speaker, under the GPBB or in other references, there are a number of government-owned and controlled corporations, not only the business corporation.
With that preliminary question, Mr. Speaker, similar to the question raised by Brother MP Tago, educational institutions are also government-controlled, government-owned and controlled corporations. Madam Proponent, you replied to MP Tago that when we are referring to educational institutions, then there should be another resolution to be filed. But you are also telling us that there are several government corporations, owned and controlled corporations, not only business corporations. Again, I would like to ask Madam Proponent, Mr. Speaker, if educational institutions is not within the gambit of this resolution, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, the way I understand it, it's an academic institution and it's actually governed by its own charters. It could be covered by the education code. I'm not so sure what particular provisions in the education code, but our representations to the governing boards of educational institutions are provided by specific laws.
In the same manner, Mr. Speaker, Madam Proponent, that these government-owned and controlled corporations have their own charters. And in fact, they have their own laws governing these government-owned and controlled corporations. But anyway, I think we really have to look into just to classify whether government-owned and controlled corporations which have their own charters are not covered by this resolution. But we leave it to further inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
If I may, Mr. Speaker, just to clarify all these things. When you Google particular provisions about or explanations about GOCCs, it doesn't talk about the educational institutions. Doesn't anyway in the enumeration of all the GOCCs mention any educational institution, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, Madam Proponent, Mr. Speaker. So you are telling us that in this resolution that you filed, educational institutions, even if they are government-owned and controlled corporations, are not covered by this resolution.
I'm not so sure if it is classified as GOCC, Mr. Speaker, because these are academic, as I've said, these are academic institutions. And if we want representations, I think there's a very specific law. And I think even the presiding speaker is a member of one of the institutions as in the governing boards of one of these institutions. And even the Polytechnic, Cotabato City State University has its own board that some or one of the members of the parliament is a member of the governing
Debate
board.
capacity
I think there's a
hospital.
particular Cotabato City State University has its own board that
Okay.
some or one
Mr.
of the
Speaker,
members
Madam
of the
Proponent.
parliament is.
Are we aware how many government-owned and controlled corporations within the jurisdiction of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao?
I can enumerate some of them, but as to the extent of the operation, it has to be determined by the government of the day. To name a few, Mr. Speaker, based on the listing we obtained online, one here is Al-Amana Islamic Investment Bank of the Philippines, BSP, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, Development Bank of the Philippines, Land Bank of the Philippines. I'll just select because there are so many lists. Home Mortgage Finance Corporation, PhilHealth, Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, operating in ARM or BARM now.
National Power Corporation.
National Electrification Administration.
NPC.
National Food Authority, National Housing Authority, National Irrigation Authority, Administration, Philippine Coconut Authority,
Will somebody secure that cut?
and some other, I think in the other list there is NPC, Pag-ibig PAN, GSIS, DBP, Postal Corporation, Rice Institute, and some others.
Madam Proponent, Mr. Speaker, I just would like to impress that almost all national government-owned and controlled corporations have their regional offices here or regional operations. I just would like to impress Mr. Speaker that considering the resolution, it is almost all the government-owned and controlled corporations which have their regional operations in the BARM will have to be, we will be requesting our Chief Minister to have or to request for or to recommend for representatives in these corporations. Mr. Speaker, Madam Proponent, thank you very much for the clarification.
For the record, we are not actually, this resolution does not in any way try to propose a different charter for the GOCCs. In fact, what we are asking is simply a seat in the board of all these GOCCs. Yes, similar with the current status, yes, of BARM in the MSU Board of Regents and in all of the academic institutions operating within the BARM.
Yes.
That there is a seat.
Yes.
For the BARM in
one
the,
or more seats,
that
depending
is,
on the extent of operation.
So that is simply the intention of this resolution.
Yes, Mr.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. The distinguished minority leader, MP Alay Salamia, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. This is just in addition to what I'm one of the co-authors of this resolution. This is just in addition to what the good MP Baintanang Patuan from Maguindanao has said, Mr. Speaker. Just to set the record straight, Mr. Speaker, SUCs, state universities and colleges, are not GOCCs. They are not GOCCs as legally defined under the laws. Each SUC, especially state universities, have their own charters and their own governing boards, and there is a separate process of ensuring that SUCs inside the BARM are actually contain slots or seats for BARM representation. So that can be included in a separate, equally important resolution or bill, Mr. Speaker. Second, in addition to what the good proponent has mentioned, there are, can I be heard? Sorry, my internet is poor. There are GOCCs as mentioned in the BOL, and there are GOCCs that are not mentioned specifically in the BOL. But the resolution speaks about these provisions that require that the BARM, through the Chief Minister, shall recommend representatives of the Bangsamoro government to the governing boards of GOCCs operating within the jurisdiction of the BARM. That's the final penultimate paragraph of the resolution. And these GOCCs, whichever GOCCs these are, will be determined through a process under the IFPB, or the Intergovernmental Fiscal Policy Board. And that would go through a separate process. So the resolution is a simple resolution urging the Office of the Chief Minister to recommend recommend representatives to the GOCCs, and this will be done through the IFPB, which is the proper forum or venue where these GOCCs can be identified, and the process of identifying which representatives shall be selected can also be determined through the IFPB, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Alamia, for always clearing up the murky waters for the explanation. Yes, I already recognized earlier MP Sanki. And then after MP Sanki, the distinguished gentleman from Cotabato City, the Honorable Deputy Speaker Omar Semes, will follow after MP Sanki.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. With due courtesy to the proponents of resolution number 508 about government-owned and controlled corporation, with due courtesy, I have been the chairman, CEO of Amana Bank. When Amana Bank was about to be declared as bankrupt, I was able to stop the bleeding of the bank. And I was so elated seeing this resolution number 508. And I was also a pioneer in the creation of the Southern Philippines Development Authority when this was created upon the prodding of Cesar Adib Mahul. I was a researcher in his office at UP with Attorney Mike Mastura, Attorney Musibwat, Attorney Magapato Nabas Jr., and I know everything about SPDA. SPDA has a quasi-corporate functions. It can go into corporate, it can also go into non-corporate social services. It was a very unique government agency. It has dual charter objective. And I suppose that the BARM should take over the function of SPDA as well as Amana Bank. When I was with Amana Bank, I was transferred to the Office of Muslim Affairs. This is a confidential matter because I found out that Land Bank and DBP was afraid of making Amana Bank succeed in its operation. When I was transferred to OMA from Amana Bank, I filed a case against DBP because they wanted to dispose Amana Bank. They privatized nila, ibinta nila. And I objected, saying that Amana Bank is a product of the blood and tears of the Bangsamoro. It's a bank created precisely as a state bank of the arm and now the BARM. Looking at the bill, BT Resolution number 508, there are some executive order that perhaps we have to take a look into. Executive Order 142, transferring all government-owned and controlled corporation in the BARM area to the autonomous region, but this was never complied. Under Executive Order 142, direct at the time of Regional Governor Pangandaman, ASPDA's projects that are supposed to be turned over. By the way, there are actually 47 government-owned and controlled corporations, and 7 were about to be privatized, including Amana Bank. Now, my worry is this, and why sometimes sinisisi ko yung mga nakaraang namamahala sa ARM. Under Executive Order 142, dapat i-turn over yung government-owned and controlled corporation. Isa na dito yung Marawi Resort Hotel, owned by SPDA. Bakit hindi ni-turn over sa BARM? Another quasi-corporate project ng SPDA is yung Sarilica Village. It has 572 hectare area. That Sarilica Village, owned by SPDA, that is supposed to be transferred to ARM and now BARM, is composed of 572 hectare, including the Awang Airport. The Awang Airport given to the as airport to the military is 117 hectare. Humingi pa sila ng 5 hectare additional to become a training ground ng mga Capco. I was then the admin department manager sa SPDA when this was negotiated by the armed forces. Kaya yung airport naging 117 hectare plus 5 hectare, 123 hectare na. So there is still about 300 hectare na dapat hinawakan nun ng ARM, ng ARM as a socio-corporate venture, pero pinabayaan. And out of this PD Executive Order 142, there is one thing that I would like to mention here. Under PD 690, creating SPDA, as amended by PD 1703, napakalakas po ng SPDA. It has quasi-corporate project. Among them is the Lake Buluan Development Project in Buluan. Another is the Lake Lano Development Project. It has 8 hectare around the lake shore, and this was occupied by a friend lawyer.
Yes, apologies to the gentleman on the floor. We really love to listen to all these anecdotes, but we hope that you have questions that you would like to ask to the proponent so that we can
I just would like
move
to share
forward.
some inputs because I was so touched by having read this. This is to me a very, very good resolution. And I am just mentioning what are those GOCCs or corporate, quasi-corporate project that should have been transferred to ARM but never been undertaken. Now we have the BARM. I am saying that this must be transferred now to BARM. Among those was the Lake Buluan Development Project, Lake Lano Development Project, the Betali 2,000 plus hectare project, the Maluso project, the Lake Menit project. There are 6 aquaculture projects that is supposed to be turned over to the ARM, now BARM. And yes, thank you very much, Brother Atinalasan.
MP Saki,
Yes.
Your Honor, do you have a question po?
This is just sharing of thoughts with the proponent because I was really touched, and in fact, I would like to suggest that I'll be included as one of the sponsors. Knowing fully well the idea to including Amana Bank as chairman of the Amana Bank, the reason why Amana Bank was not disposed, was not privatized, was that
Mr. Speaker, point of order, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
MP Toy Mangudadato, please, can you hold first your
Yes,
point of order?
Mr. Speaker.
What is the point of order? What is the point of order of the gentleman from Buluan?
Mr. Speaker, I believe that any member can rise before the rostrum, provided, Mr. Speaker, that he has some thoughts to ask to the proponent. But it seems, Mr. Speaker, other members are raising some personal and collective privilege, Mr. Speaker. And there is no point for any member to raise that considering that what I know, Mr. Speaker, is the Speaker can only accommodate any member provided they are going to ask some inquiry from the proponent of any piece of legislation.
Excuse me, gentlemen.
Yes, yeah, wait, for a while, Your Honors,
we
for a
are
while,
in-
for a while, for Your Honors. That's why, MP, may I respectfully just ask
well taken.
MP Sangki
The
to shorten
observation-
his remarks and then
the
go on,
observation is
proceed
well
with his
taken.
question, sir.
The
Baka po pwede
observation
po.
is well taken. I'm just enriching further the thoughts of the proponent, which I was deeply touched, because as I was saying, the arm, they used to say it's a failed experiment. So if you're not going to elucidate where we failed that they called BARM as failed experiment, this is what I was trying to drive out.
Yes, we understand that, sir. So, we will give you way for to question the proponent po.
The point of order should have been made if I am making a controversial topic here. And I'm not making a controversial topic, I'm just enriching the ideas, the thoughts of the proponent. And as I was saying, when you talk of the Al-Aman Islamic Investment Bank, right from the start of this BARM, there was already a sort of an order to take over the Amana Bank. We are now almost 3 years. We have not taken over Amana Bank.
Yes, Your Honor, please. We are under the period of amendment, a period of debate, and we would like we would like to listen to these anecdotes. I'm sure you can enrich, the gentleman can enrich the intention further, the intention of the resolution. But we hope that he understands this parliament as to the procedure. We hope to elicit questions from the gentleman on the floor and then ask him directly to the lady proponent, so that we can finish this over, because with your honor, there are other members who are also wanting to ask questions, and we do not want to hold them online. So please wrap up po your one and then ask questions to the proponent. Thank you very much.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I so therefore move that we pass this resolution number 508 immediately, so that we can take over the mandate where Amana Bank should have been transferred under the BARM supervision. I so move.
Thank you very much.
This be undertaken as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, MP Alisanki. The distinguished gentleman from Cotabato City, the Deputy Speaker, Honorable Deputy Speaker Omar Sema, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I only have, I think, one question. If this will be answered clearly, there will be no follow-up. The resolution cited different sections of Article 12, and most of these sections have touched on the Intergovernmental Fiscal Policy Board, of which the Office of the Chief Minister is rightly linked because it's an intergovernmental body. Will the proponent enlighten us if she has knowledge as to the status of the conversation on this matter in the Intergovernmental Fiscal Policy Board? Because baka lalabas meron nang there have already been arrangements made on the board, baka ma-preempt or we might be able to act hastily on this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe that in all the sessions where the Chief Minister did the reporting about the status of the Bangsamoro government operation and the intergovernmental IGR bodies, there was no specific mention about the status of the policies and actions that were undertaken by the Intergovernmental Fiscal Policy Board.
Yeah, okay. Now, with respect to Al-Amana Investment Bank and SPDA, do you have any personal knowledge now as to the conversation in the Intergovernmental Fiscal Policy Board as far as these two to GOCCs is concerned?
Mr. Speaker, I am not privy to any of the conversations and policy discussions of the boards of the Al-Amana and SPDA, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, because my concern is in Section 32 of Article 12, it states that the Bangsamoro government and the IFB and the Bangsamoro government shall determine the extent of participation of the Bangsamoro government or the extent of interest which the Bangsamoro government may have in these, particularly these two institutions. And I think it's important, if there will be any recommendation coming from the Bangsamoro government, it should first be on these two only institutions, because clearly the interest of the Bangsamoro government is very high on these two institutions. What I'm saying is, I think we should be particular first on these two institutions, so that we can have immediately, following also the thought of MP Ali Sangki, that we should now have control over these two institutions. And also, if I may, I also include participation, representation in the board of the Land Bank of the Philippines, because of course these Land Bank operates in the Bangsamoro with substantially. Also in the Development Bank of the Philippines, dahil ang Development Bank of the Philippines siyang meron ding stake sa Al-Amana Investment Bank. So I think we should, in contrast to what is suggested by other MPs, that we immediately ask the Chief Minister to recommend members in the representation in other GOCCs. I suggest that we focus only on these two institutions first, so that it is, because it's very much doable right now. And as to other GOCCs, there could be other elements that we need to consider first. Yung determination pa ng extent ng interest ng Bangsamoro, i-determine pa yun in a proper proceeding. So I suggest that we, if you agree, Madam Sponsor, that we specify only Al-Amana Investment Bank and Al-Amana Investment Bank, the SPDA, Land Bank of the Philippines, and Development Bank of the Philippines. Thank you. Yun lang ho.
Mr. Speaker, I believe that this particular resolution should not be confined to only of the 2 or 3 mentioned GOCCs. Because if that will be the case, chances are we'll be having another resolution for the other GOCCs. But my take on this, Mr. Speaker, is that we just want to urge and start the conversation or activities. If there are no activities yet, we just want to speed up the process if there is an ongoing process, just to help the government of the day through this resolution, Mr. Speaker.
So on that case, Mr. Speaker, the resolution should be urging the Intergovernmental Fiscal Policy Board to be activated.
Mr. Speaker, I have other separate resolution regarding the IGR bodies that includes the Intergovernmental Fiscal Policy Board.
Yes, because I think there is no problem if there will be another resolution for other GOCCs. What I'm trying to point out is that clear na kasi yung interest natin dito sa dalawang GOCC na to. So I believe that it would be easier, and yung doability niya as far as the national government and the Bangsamoro government is concerned is, very certain. That's why I'm suggesting this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker, we can leave the strategy to the government of the day. If they decided to prioritize first the Al-Amana and the SPDA and the other institution, they can do so. But the resolution calls for those GOCCs. The strategy is up to the government of the day, Mr. Speaker, on whether what GOCCs they would like to prioritize, Mr. Speaker.
Does that satisfy the Deputy Speaker? Yes, further, DS Omar.
It's a hanging. It is hanging question, Mr. Speaker, but I support the resolution. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period of debate and interpellation.
So there's a motion to close the period of debate and interpellation. Is there any objection? Hearing none, period of debate and interpellation is hereby closed.
Mr. Speaker, can we have a 15-minute break for ASA prayer?
Session suspended for 15 minutes.
Hello.
You can.
Session resumed. Majority
Yes,
Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we are now, I move forward to open the period of amendment of PR number 508. May we respectfully recognize MP Maysara Latif.
The lady from, distinguished lady from Tugaya, the Honorable MP Maysara Damdaman Latif is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to include the following amendment in the last part before the dispositive portion. To read as follows. Before the dispositive portion, Mr. Speaker. Another whereas clause. Whereas, there is a need to appoint representatives of the Bangsamoro government. There's a need to appoint representatives of the Bangsamoro government to the governing boards of GOCCs operating in the Bangsamoro region. May we include also the word all, whereas there's a need to appoint representatives of the Bangsamoro government to the governing boards of all GOCCs operating in the Bangsamoro region as mentioned in the preceding provisions of the Bangsamoro Organic Law. Period, Mr. Speaker.
Perhaps the lady from Tugaya may also cite the specific provision in the organic law where it says that
Okay,
the
Mr.
regional
Speaker.
government. Yes.
Specifically, Mr. Speaker, Section 31. So we remove the word preceding provisions. Preceding provisions specifically. Section 31, 32, 33 of Article 12 of the Bangsamoro Organic Law.
Is that all, MP Latif?
That's all, Mr. Speaker. So it will mean that we want to appoint and have representatives of the Bangsamoro government to the governing boards of all GOCCs that operate in the Bangsamoro region. Mr. Speaker, as mandated by Sections 31, 32, 33 of Article 12 of the Bangsamoro Organic Law.
Thank you. MP, the proponent, MP Baintan, ng Patuan, do you subscribe? Are you amenable to that?
Mr. Speaker, if I may, Mr. Speaker, Section 31 talks about the authority and control of the Bangsamoro, authority and control over existing GOCCs operating exclusively in the BARM, in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. While the Section 2 talks about the representation, and Section 33 talks about the establishment, determination of participation of Bangsamoro government in Islamic Investment Bank of the Philippines and SPDA. But the proposed amendment, Mr. Speaker, talks about the representation in all GOCCs, Mr. Speaker, which I think is supportive of Section 32. But Section 32, Mr. Speaker, doesn't talk about all GOCCs representing, but instead it says here that GOCCs that operate substantial portion of their business directly or through their subsidiaries, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in that case, Mr. Speaker, I could accept some of the wordings, but we remove the word all and also remove the and cut it under until the word region.
Can you be more specific? I'm sorry, MP Baintan. So you want to take down the word all?
Whereas would be, whereas there is a need to appoint representatives of the Bangsamoro government to the governing boards of GOCCs operating in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region.
So you no need to cite there the specific provisions
Yes, Mr.
in the law.
Speaker, because it's already enumerated and it has its specific intent, Mr. Speaker. The specific whereas reinforces one of the whereases.
Okay. MP Damdaman Latif, would that be okay?
Yes, Mr.
I'm
Speaker.
sorry.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. As long as the essence is captured that we want the members, the Bangsamoro government to appoint its representative to the governing boards of all OGCCs operating in the Bangsamoro region.
Thank you. So now we will reflect the amended version from the proponent herself, taking also accepting also the accepting the proposal of MP Latif with amendment to take down or to remove the word all and the phrase
as mentioned.
And the line that comes after the word region.
Yes.
That's it. Okay, so accepted, MP Baintan.
Yes,
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker.
Any further amendments?
Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period of amendment.
The
MP,
Minister of Labor and Employment, MP Romeo Sema, is recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, my proposed amendment, Mr. Speaker, is a title. A resolution, instead of urging, a resolution respectfully requesting the office of the Chief Minister. Respectfully requesting. Thank you.
What do you think, MP Empatuan? Are you amenable to that? It's more polite.
Yeah, I agree, Mr. Speaker, but
The urgency of the matter.
yes, Mr. Speaker, and if I have to change it, I would rather change it to calling rather than requesting, because it's already a part, but the necessity and
It's
the
already
action should be
it's
done.
already the mandate of the
Yeah.
government of the day.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, because
Yes.
we haven't heard it in any of the reports that was given to us, Mr. Speaker.
So what is the reply of the lady proponent?
I'd rather
Stick to the word
stick
urgent.
to my proposal, Mr. Speaker.
MP Romeo, would you like to plead before the Parliament?
Mr. Speaker, for the record, we've been calling, or we've been urging the Office of the Chief Minister in various resolutions that we have.
That we adopted already. Yes, MP Romeo.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. The Chief Minister is our Chief Minister. It is the Chief Minister of the Bangsamoro government, or part of the Bangsamoro Parliament. So I think to respect him.
Mr. Speaker, this is not personal to the Chief Minister. We are calling the office of the Chief Minister, Mr. Speaker.
I think it's a proper calling, not urging, because parang medyo konmasada, we are demanding to the Chief Minister.
May I resolve the issue? Would you like that we qualify the verb by adding respectfully urging? Would you want that, MP Ampatuan? Just to finish this discussion.
Yeah, I'd rather stick to call. We'd rather change it to calling rather than because we are respecting. Indeed, we are. Even if we do not put that word respectfully, we are respectful of the Chief Minister, his office, and everyone else who are in authority. We are the BTA. We are the Parliament.
MP Romeo.
Yes, calling. I support
Okay.
the calling.
So
Instead
okay.
of urging.
So instead of urging, calling.
Yeah, calling. I could settle on that.
Okay. Please, Secretariat, make the necessary replacement of the word calling. I'm sorry, urging to calling.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, there is standing motion to close the Perillo amendment.
Okay, yes. So
Mr.
there's a
Speaker.
motion to close the period of
Speaker.
debate. Further interpellation that's been seconded.
Mr.
Who's that?
Speaker, I object
You object to the
to the closure
closing of the
the
interpellation.
yes.
Yeah. Do you have an amendment?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. This is MP Jajuri, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. The Minister of Social Services, Attorney Raisa Jajuri, you're recognized.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to propose an amendment to the same provision that was introduced by MP Maysara Dandamundatif. If we can go to that part. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I am reading the pertinent provisions of the Bangsamoro Organic Law. And while Section 32 provides that there should be a representation by the Bangsamoro government in the boards of directors or in the policy-making bodies of these GOCCs, it is qualified by a phrase which says that these GOCCs should operate a substantial portion of their business in the BARM or where the Bangsamoro government has a substantial interest. So it appears that it is not for all GOCCs. Where the Bangsamoro government has a substantial interest. The GOCC is operating substantial part of their business here or where the Bangsamoro government has substantial interest. My fear, Mr. Speaker, is that if we ask the Chief Minister to nominate representatives to all the GOCCs, some of the GOCCs may not qualify under this provision, Mr. Speaker. So the proposal is to include a phrase that would say that operate a substantial portion of their businesses directly or through their subsidiaries in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region or where the Bangsamoro government has a substantial interest. That is my proposed amendment, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, may we ask the good minister to help us out, especially the secretariat, so that we can encode exactly the amendment she wants to propose.
Okay. After operating in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region, which is already part of the accepted amendment, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, governing boards of GOCCs and before operating, we will include a different phrase.
GOCCs that operate. I'm taking the whole part of Section 2 into the resolution, Mr. Speaker, that operate a substantial portion of their businesses directly or through their subsidiaries in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region or where the Bangsamoro government has a substantial interest, Mr. Speaker. Or where the Bangsamoro government has a substantial interest.
Is that all, Minister Jajuri?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Thank you po.
Thank you. Proponent?
Mr. Speaker, I think this is a reiteration of Section 32. But, Mr. Speaker, I have no problem with that. But upon reading it again, Mr. Speaker, I have a second thought on the word appoint representatives because this is a board, this is a body which is outside of the authority of the Bangsamoro government. And therefore, what can be done is just to recommend our representatives to these governing boards. And maybe the word appoint is not appropriate because we didn't use in the preceding sections, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I would like to propose that there is a need to recommend representatives of the Bangsamoro government.
Instead of appoint?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Okay.
So
may I ask
we can ask the good
yes, may I ask
Minister
Jajuri
if that is all right.
and MP Maysara Latif?
And yeah, MP Maysara.
Mr. Speaker, upon reading Section 32, the word that was used shall be represented. So meaning the Bangsamoro government shall be represented. So the word recommend is recommendatory only. It is not mandatory. So if we use the word recommend, that would run counter to the spirit of Section 32, which specifically mandates that there shall be representation from the Bangsamoro government. So now, who shall recommend the representative? I believe that's the head of the government of the day, because in IGF, Intergovernmental Fiscal Policy Board is composed of members from the cabinet. So it is essentially an executive power. So I believe, Mr. Speaker, that the word should be appoint and not merely recommend, Mr. Speaker.
So meaning there's a allotted seat representing the BARM, and the appointing authority, or the one that would appoint who will be the representative of the BARM into these GOCCs is the Chief Minister. That's
yes,
it.
Mr. Speaker.
Okay, in
That
layman
is,
terms, yes. So MP Baintan.
I think it will not become consistent with the
So-
intent of the resolution.
So
Mr. Speaker.
are you okay with the word appoint?
No, Mr. Speaker. I'm looking for a better term that would capture actually the representation of the Bangsamoro government, which is triggered by, I'm looking at the specific word that would trigger the representation of the Bangsamoro government in a particular board.
Nominate. Pwedeng nominate.
Mr. Speaker, MP Tago wish to be recognized.
Yes, MP Tagu. Do we have proposed
I think
amendment?
the middle term, Mr. Speaker, is nominate representatives to the governing board. It should not appoint because it becomes it
It's
can
not within
nominate.
power.
It is not recommend because it is not mandatory, but nominate. So if the chief minister nominates, the what we call this, the UCC should accept the nominated representative coming from the chief ministers. I think for me that is the neutral term for that matter.
Thank you, MP Paisalin Tago, for that.
I think I could settle for that, Mr.
Okay, you
Speaker.
consider.
And
Okay.
we'll change the appropriate provisions that will be affected,
All right.
Mr. Speaker.
Minister Jajuri, Minister MP Latif, I think we are all in agreement that we can settle with the word nominate.
Yes, sir.
So,
Yes, Mr. Speaker, please change also in the dispositive portion the word recommend.
So we also change in the dispositive portion of the resolution the word recommend to nominate.
And even the title.
Okay. So please reflect the word nominate, change all the words in the resolution that uses the word recommend to nominate. All right. Any further amendment? No more? Okay, there was an earlier motion to close the period of debate. Any objection? Hearing none. The period of amendment is hereby closed.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the approval and adoption of proposed resolution number 508, Mr. Speaker.
So there's a motion to adopt proposed resolution number 508 as amended. Any objection? Hearing none, proposed resolution number 508 as introduced by MP Baintan Adil Ampatuan is hereby adopted.
Mr. Speaker, we proceed to the next proposed resolution. We are on proposed resolution number 5110. May I request the members of the Parliament to wag masyado tayong mag-debate dito sa mga resolutions na hindi naman kailangan pag-debate, Mr. Speaker. So therefore, Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of interpellation and debate. May we request the proponent, MP Eddie Ali.
Period of debate and interpellation on proposed resolution number 510 is hereby open. We request the proponent of this measure to please take the podium for the inquiries from the floor. Accept inquiries from the floor. MP Eddie Ali. Any members?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Floor Leader. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Amma ba'd. Our distinguished Chief Minister, Ahud Balawag Ibrahim, Mr. Speaker, Deputy Speakers, Majority Floor Leader, Minority Floor Leader, esteemed colleagues, officers and staff of the Parliament, members of the Secretariat, guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. On September 6, 2021, Senate Bill number 2214 was approved on third reading by the Senate of the Philippines by a vote of 15 senators with 3 opposed and 1 abstained. It was another win for our struggle for peace, but we still have a long winding road ahead of us. Peace, after all, is something that we cannot just completely attain and then rest on our laurels. It is something that we keep fighting for and keep protecting for as long as we exist. But rest assured that never-ending struggle is worthy every blood, sweat, tears, and sacrifice, so we persevere. We all know too well that realizing the aspirations of the comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro would be far from easy. On top of that, we had to contend with the effects of a worsening pandemic and its lockdowns. The sheer overwhelming weight of our mandate, coupled with shortfalls in resources, and placed in the context of continued security threats, a little more time is not much to ask. Even the normalization program, which is a critical element of the peace process, is far from its target level of accomplishment. 3 more years of transition is nothing compared to the 4 decades of violent conflict and almost 2 decades of broiling negotiations. Without sufficient time for a meaningful transition, all of it would have been in vain. We cannot afford to fail just because we fell short of time or patience. We need to persevere in this path. We owe it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to our mujahideen in Suhada, and to the Bangsamoro people. I would like to take this opportunity as well to express my deepest gratitude to the overwhelming support among stakeholders in the barn for the postponement of the election. Of the 65 stakeholders' positions submitted to the Senate Committee on Local Government, only 3 stakeholders raised opposition to the postponement. The 62 comprising of national government agencies, Bangsamoro politicians, NGOs, CSOs, academic institutions, and indigenous peoples' formations saw the light of reason to support the extension of the transition. Their voices were loudly heard in the halls of the Senate. Alhamdulillah. Lastly, on the crux of this resolution, we thank and commend the Senate of the Republic of the Philippines under the able leadership of Senate President Vicente Tito Soto for approving Senate Bill 2214 on the 3rd reading. The Committee on Local Government, chaired by Senator Francis Tol Tolentino, and the Senate Majority Floor Leader Senator Juan Miguel Mig Subiri, and all those in the Senate involved in the legislative process of its enactment. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Salam. Any members who wish to avail of the interpellation? None? Majority
Mr.
Leader?
Speaker, I move to close the period of interpellation and debate.
It's a motion to close the period of interpellation.
Mr. Speaker,
Debate interpellation is hereby closed.
yes, I have an omnibus motion, Mr. Speaker, for the approval and adoption of this resolution. Mr.
So omnibus motion to dispense with the period of amendment and proceed with the adoption of resolution number 510. Is there any objection? Hearing none, proposed resolution number 510 is hereby adopted.
Mr. Speaker, we move to propose resolution number 511 in the business for the day. And we request the proponent MP by Patuan to have an initial statement on this particular.
We open first the period of debate.
Yes, I move to open the period of debate.
So the period of debate interpellation on PR 511 is hereby open. The proponent is recognized, MP Patuan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you can see in the daily news, the national level, there's been a clamor about the issue of the SRA and related benefits for our frontliners, Mr. Speaker. This particular resolution is an anticipation of an eventual events that our frontline healthcare workers will be exhausted, and therefore they will be infected by the COVID-19, and therefore there should be an appropriate support that should be extended to them. So this is actually very timely, since we recognize the fact that the frontliners, the healthcare frontliners, have been battling the COVID-19 for more than 2 years already. So I think it's but appropriate to help them once they will be infected by the virus. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Patuan. Any amendment? I mean, the interpellation from the floor or from the Zoom?
Mr. Speaker.
So we first recognize MP Damdaman Latif because I heard her voice first, and then second to be followed by MP Tago, in that order.
Mr. Speaker,
MP Damdaman Latif,
yes,
proceed.
I wish to be clarified. In the dispositive portion, there is a word there that says depending on the extent of illness from September 2021 until full vaccination is completed. What does this mean? Does it mean that we will only give them financial assistance until full vaccination is completed? Is that the import of this dispositive portion, Mr. Speaker?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, Mr. Speaker, right now we are still low in our vaccination coverage, and we are expecting that it will be fast-tracked, but in between the full vaccination completion, we cannot deny the fact that there's a possibility that our frontline healthcare workers will be infected by the virus.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. In that sense, Mr. Speaker, I would like to make an amendment to remove the word until full vaccination, because we need to provide our frontline care health workers the word until full vaccination, whether or not there will be full vaccination in the Bangsamoro region, because the essence of providing assistance is the care that we provide for our medical workers. So we need to give them beyond the period that that was provided in this resolution, that is until full vaccination is achieved, Mr. Speaker. So may I amend this to remove the word until full vaccination is needed?
Yes,
completed.
we will entertain. Yes, we will entertain the lady's amendment later at the period of amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That would be all.
Thank you, MP Tago. You recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Yes, please proceed.
In that resolution, it provides that we will give financial assistance to healthcare workers. In the what does the sponsor, Mr. Speaker, mean healthcare workers? Sino ang mga sakop ng healthcare workers? Yung janitor ba, healthcare workers? Utility workers, healthcare workers? O yung nurse aid healthcare workers, or yung mga doctors lang, or registered nurse? Anong sakop ng healthcare workers?
Mr. Speaker, in the fourth whereas clause of the resolution, it talks about the strength of the healthcare workers, which is around 3,000 from the Ministry of Health, and the Bangsamoro Barm ready, Mr. Speaker. And that would cover all those in those offices mentioned, Mr. Speaker.
So,
Salin?
Speaker, ibig sabihin ng healthcare workers, as mentioned, are those employees in the Ministry of Health. Yun lang ba?
Yes, Mr.
For
Speaker,
example,
and
Mr. Speaker,
Yes, please proceed, MP Tago.
yes, yun lang ba yung employees ng Ministry of Health ang covered ng resolution na ito, healthcare workers coming from the Ministry of Health? Because, for example, Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, the City Health Office in Marawi City, as well as in Basilan, were not devolved in the previous autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao, and so in the its successor in the BARM. So ano po, for example, kasama sila ba dyan o hindi?
Mr. Speaker, I think the question already provided the answer. They are not devolved to the BARM, but nothing is preventing BARM to extend assistance, provided it will be covered by an appropriate legal measures, Mr. Speaker.
So meaning, is the proponent willing to expand the determination or the identification of the
Mr. Speaker,
recipients?
for this particular resolution, it is confined to the healthcare workers of MOH and BARM ready.
MP Salin Tago, do you have further interpolation?
Yes, that is my worry, because although our health workers in Marawi City and also in Basilan, because in the jurisdiction hindi sila sakop ng Ministry of Health. Yun ang concern ko, Mr. Speaker, kung kasama sila o hindi. Din para another question, Mr. Speaker, is anong iniisip ng sponsor, Mr. Speaker, na anong klaseng financial assistance or what amount that the sponsor expect na dapat financial assistance, o bahala na ang Chief Minister kung anong financial assistance ang ibibigay.
Mr. Speaker, I attempted to put some figures on it, but since this is just a resolution, I think it becomes complicated. And therefore, what I did is that we just put a provision that the Office of the Chief Minister, in coordination with the Ministry of Health, should provide the guidelines, and they will provide the appropriate support based on, and the funding should be charged based on the 2021 General Appropriations Act, specifically on Quick Response Fund, Mr. Speaker.
MP Tago.
Mr. Speaker?
Yes, you have the floor. MP Tago.
Mr. Speaker?
Yes, wag kang magtago, MP Tago. You have the floor. MP Tago.
Mr. Speaker?
Yes, we can hear you.
Wala signal.
Please proceed. Can you hear
signal.
us? MP Tago?
You're hearing, nawalang signal eh. May nang signal dito. Mr. Speaker, kaya ko tinanong yung Mr. Speaker kasi, yes, I can hear you now. Yes, I can hear you now. Mr. Speaker, I asked that, Mr. Speaker, because as regarding financial assistance on
I think there's a problem with MP Tago's connection. MP Tago? I'm sorry, but I think we need to proceed with other members. We can We can entertain again MP Tago once he establishes a stable connection. MP Eddie Ali, you recognize.
Mr. Speaker, I have only one or two clarificatory questions. If Madam Sponsor will yield to this.
Gladly, Mr. Speaker.
Madam Sponsor, Mr. Speaker, my clarification is on the effectivity of this resolution, which mentions from September 2021. Is it right, Madam Sponsor?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, there is no such thing as retroactive effect in policies.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker.
My concern, Mr. Speaker, there are frontliners few months ago, even in tawi-tawi, I don't know in the other provinces, who even died because of COVID. I will say, Mr. Speaker, that these frontliners are not covered by this resolution. I'm not even sure, Mr. Speaker, if these frontliners were given financial assistance. I'm not sure. But my only clarification is, if this is only true for those who will get sick by COVID starting this month.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, as I've said, there's no such thing as retroactive effect. But I suppose that the Office of the Chief Minister and the Ministry of Health has other programs with, I don't know, with specifically for those affected or those victims affected already. But this one, we saw the necessity and we saw the problem, and that's why we proposed this resolution. Because as I mentioned, as you mentioned, there was already a problem, and we are not certain if there were interventions that were done regarding the particular problem.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, I have no problem with this resolution. In fact, I would like to be identified, if you won't mind, to be a co-author of this resolution. Kaya lang po, ano kaya ang sasabihin, Madam Sponsor, Mr. Speaker, ng ibang mga frontliners na ngayon lang tayo, I'm not saying we are blaming ourselves, but ngayon lang tayo nagkaroon ng resolution na to at ngayong buwan lang ito that may take effect. My question, Mr. Speaker, I'm not a lawyer, but I may ask some of these lawyers. If the resolution provides for its retroactivity, while any law or any resolution has no retroactive effect, but if the resolution or the law itself provides for its retroactivity, then I think it would surmise, Mr. Speaker.
I think the resolution only intends for the government of the day to provide assistance to the health workers. It does not specify as to the tenure or the effectivity of this assistance or support. That would depend on the government of the day. Should they decide to include others, then that's their decision. Am I right, MP Baintat?
There's a very specific provision here that it takes effect from this month.
Okay.
When this resolution will be adopted.
They have further.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I don't know, but the lawyer members of this parliament may clarify this, because in the period of amendment, I may suggest, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, to remove the word from September 2021. It gives, Mr. Speaker, Madam Sponsor, the discretion to the government of the day to implement whichever month they would like to start it, depending on the availability of funds. That's all, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Madam Sponsor.
Thank you, MP Eddie Ali. Do we have MP Tago back online? MP Tago?
Right. Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Recognize.
Dapat malakas ang siya. Yes, Mr. Speaker. regarding financial assistance, kasi di ba Mr. Speaker, mayroong pondo ang Chief Minister regarding mga medical assistance na nasa ambag. Mayroon tayong ambag na pondo na tinutulungan yung mga na-hospitalize. So how can we relate to this? So kailangan pa ba itong resolution, Mr. Speaker? May from the sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think the ambag, one of the assistance there is we put some resources to hospitals, for example, CRMC and other government hospitals. But it doesn't talk about the financial assistance to those frontline healthcare workers. This one is very specific to them. This is a special care to our healthcare.
For the patients.
The ambag is good for everyone.
For the patients. No?
Yeah, for the patients, Mr. Speaker.
I see, I understand. This resolution is not only for those confined health workers, patients, pwede rin bigyan sila lang cash assistance, not necessarily medical assistance, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Is that the intention of the sponsor?
We try to look at the title. It's a financial assistance, Mr. Speaker.
Do you have further in Pitago?
Cash assistance. So that's all, Mr. Speaker. Yun lang kin-clarify ko yung two things na regarding yung coverage niya at saka yung assistance that was given. So that's all, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Tago. Any further interpellation?
Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman from Buluan, MP Toy Mamudadato, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to be enlightened from the good lady, from the proponent, if how can she reconcile this proposed resolution to the existing program of the national government na ang title po is Special Risk Allowance to the frontliners. The reason why I'm asking this, Mr. Speaker, because just recently when we hold a public consultation for the upgrading of the Buluan District Hospital, many of our frontliners, health workers from the area approached this representation asking the status of their SRAs, Mr. Speaker. So I would like to know from the good lady kung ano yung pwede ba ma-correlate ito. Kasi this resolution needs a budgetary requirement from the Office of the Chief Minister, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The SRA is good for all the workers that is covered by a specific policy or a law or executive issuance. But this one, Mr. Speaker, is intended only to those who will be infected by the COVID. So this is over and above the SRA.
So, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, please proceed, MP.
In relation to that, Mr. Speaker, hindi ho ba natin kailangan i-stipulate ang figure or the amount needed for the allowance allocated for the frontliners that are being infected by the COVID-19, Mr. Speaker? Kasi medyo vague din. Halimbawa, for example, dapat prorated yan. Halimbawa, kung ang pwede natin i-allocate, sabihin natin 3,000, 5,000. The reason why I'm asking this, Mr. Speaker, because this proposed resolution, meron ho kasi tayong colleague who also filed a resolution similar to this. Her intention is similar to the intention of this resolution, and yet that proposed resolution, instead, it was referred to the proper committee. for the proper deliberation, no less than the Committee on Health. So that is why gusto ko rin ho maliwanagan talaga kung magkano po pa dapat ang nararapat na allowance na pwedeng ibigay sa mga health workers.
Mr. Speaker, as I mentioned, I attempted to put some figures on it, but it will become complicated once I put some figures because this is just a resolution. I might need to convert it into a bill when I put some words. But as I mentioned, we will leave it to the Ministry of Health or the Office of the Chief Minister in close coordination of the Office of the Chief Minister. And the charging would be based on the 2021 General Appropriations Act under the QRF. Mr. Speaker.
MP Toy, do we have further?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have no further inquiry from the lady from Maguindanao. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Toy, mga dadato. MP, gentleman from Basilan, MP Abdul Mu'min, Mujahid, are you raising your hand? Or did you just press the emoticon? MP Mujahid. Majority Leader?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move to close the period of interpellation and debate.
There's a motion to close the period of debate, interpellation. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the period of debate, interpellation is hereby closed.
Mr. Speaker, I move to open the period of amendment.
Period of amendment is open. MP Maysara, you have a earlier amendment, proposed amendment.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I would like to ask the proponent if she can remove the word until complete vaccination from the dispositive before dispositive portion.
Accepted, Mr. Speaker.
Accepted?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Any further amendment?
That's all,
MP
Mr.
Maysara?
Speaker. That's all.
Thank you. MP Paisalin, do we have an amendment?
Mr. Speaker, if we remove that particular phrase, then we might as well remove the word from September 2021 because it doesn't make sense anymore.
So you are now removing the entire line starting
From September 2021.
from September 2021. Okay. All right. So any further amendment from the members who are online?
Mr. President, Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
I move to close the period of amendment.
So there's a motion to close the period of amendment. Is there any objection? Hearing none, the period of amendment is hereby closed.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move for the adoption and approval of this proposal.
There's a motion to adopt proposed resolution number 511 as introduced by MP Ampatuan. Is there any objection? Hearing none, PR 511 is hereby adopted.
Mr. Speaker, we
Thank you, Mr.
proceed
Speaker.
to
Thank
the
you.
proposed resolution number 512. I move to open the period of interpellation and debate.
The period of the interpellation and debate on PR 512 is hereby open. We are now requesting the same person, the same proponent, MP Ampatuan, to please take the podium.
Mr. Speaker, I understand that yesterday we adopted the same resolution. And actually, I filed this supposed to be in time with that and should be part of the consolidated one. But nonetheless, this is a reinforcement to what has been adopted yesterday, Mr. Speaker.
All right. Any on them? Any debate? Any interpellation?
Mr.
Since we have.
Speaker,
Yes, MP Paisalintago, you're recognized.
in order to shorten the process, we have to approve this resolution. Kasi kaparyo rin ito ng kahapon. I
Yes.
suggest, Mr. Speaker, with due respect to my colleagues, wala nang interpretation debate na amendment kasi kaparyo rin ng kahapon. So
I
we
agree.
just approve this para sabi nga reinforcement ng resolution kahapon. Yun lang, para mapadali yung process, Mr.
I move
Speaker.
to close the period of
Will you,
interpellation.
yes, the majority leader, will you move for an omnibus motion?
Yes,
Close
Mr.
the
Speaker.
period of debate, dispense
Yes,
with
Mr. Speaker,
interpellation,
I
and then
move
proceed.
for an omnibus motion to dispense with the period of amendment and further move for the approval of this proposed resolution.
So the omnibus motion by the majority leader is duly seconded. PR 51, what's the number? 512 is hereby adopted. This is your
Speaker,
day,
we
MP
proceed
Ampatuan.
to
Thank you,
Congratulations.
Mr. Speaker.
Proposed resolution number 513, Mr. Speaker. I move to open the period of interpellation and debate.
The period of interpellation and debate on PR 513 is hereby open.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes. MP Mawali is recognized.
We are glad to hear you. We are glad to hear you, MP Mawalil. We missed you here. You are recognized, the gentleman from Sulu, MP Mawalil.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will not prolong the deliberation of this resolution, but I appeal to my fellow members of the Parliament that this is what we call consistency. Because in 2019, we have managed to pass a bill, a resolution rather, backing the nomination of then Court of Appeals Justice Dimampao. So now, Alhamdulillah, he was just appointed, and I appeal that we fast track the passage of this particular measure, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, MP Mawalil, for
Mr.
proposing this
Speaker.
resolution. Yes, MP, is that MP
That is,
Maysara?
Mr. Speaker. Yes, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to be associated also with this resolution, considering that I too also support the appointment, a well-deserved appointment of our second Muslim justice in the Supreme Court and the first Maranao to do so, Mr. Speaker. This is a feat in itself, and we would like to congratulate him and extend our warmest felicitations. And he is an inspiration to all of us. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I'd like to associate myself with the remarks of MP Damdaman Latif. Any
Speaker,
further amendment? Any
Mr.
debate?
Speaker, I
I'm
move
sorry.
to
Mr.
period of
Speaker.
interpellation and debate.
Yes, MP Paisaling Tago. You recognize.
Omnibus motion, Mr. Speaker, that all members of the Parliament should be
Second.
with respect to others, should
Second.
be co-authors.
Second.
This
Don't
will be
need to shout,
approved.
MP.
This
We can hear
resolution be
you quite
approved.
well. Thank you. Said the summon of the
And
omnibus
this will be
motion.
approved. This resolution be approved. With this.
Second.
You guys,
Yes,
you
Mr.
don't need to
Speaker.
shout. We can hear you clearly.
Yes, Mr.
So,
Speaker.
yes, there's an omnibus motion to dispense with all the parliamentary procedure regarding PR 513 and then proceed to the adoption with the request that all members present online physically will be included as co-authors of this measure. Is there any objection to the omnibus motion? Hearing none, PR 513 is hereby adopted. Congratulations to the second Moro Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, Safar Dimaampaw. PR 513 is hereby adopted.
Mr. Speaker, we proceed to PR resolution number 514, Mr. Speaker.
The period of debate interpellation on PR 514 is hereby open.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I have an omnibus motion to dispense with the period of interpellation and debate in amendment, Mr. Speaker, and further move for the approval of the same, Mr. Speaker.
Would you want to give at least a short statement for the proponent?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
We recognize the gentleman, distinguished gentleman from the Chaan Ramain,
MP
Mudayaw Sakat.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Floor Leader. Hiningi ko sa ating mga colleagues na aprobahan natin itong Resolution 514 dahil marapat lang na pasalamatan natin ng ating mahal na Presidente Rodrigo Roa Duterte dahil siya ang nagbigay sa atin ng pangalawang chance na magkaroon tayo ng justice sa Supreme Court. For your information, ito ang pang-15 na basis na naging shortlist, kasama shortlist si Justice Dimampaw. Kaya may request na ma-aprobahan ito. Assalamualaikum
Alaikum
warahmatullahi
assalam
wabarakatuh.
warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
MP
The distinguished
Sultan
gentleman from Maging, MP Sultan
Rimbang.
Idris Nasir Rimbang is recognized.
from Ramain din.
And from Ramay as well.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Congratulations sa ating brother Branao. First Branao na Justice si Jafar Mampao. Congratulations po, sir. First na Maranao na Tagalanaw na naging Justice Court of Appeal. Sana po ay yung mga kapatid natin na outside the BAM ang mga Bangsamoro ang matulungan po natin sila. Nagpapasalamat po tayo kay Allah dahil nandiyan kayo. Una po, I would like to thank Mr. President, beloved President Rodrigo Roa Duterte sa pag-appoint sa kadugo natin na Maranao from Lanao del Sur. Nagpapasalamat po ang Bangsamoro sa inyong mahal na Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte sa pag-appoint po sa aming kadugo Maranao. Pangalaw po ng Muslim dito sa Bangsamoro na na-appoint po sa mataas na posisyon sa justice po. Nagpapasalamat po ako sa Member of Parliament. Kung pinapayagan po ako ng proponent, si Safar ay gusto ko po mag-author sa bill na ito 5-1 for Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you. Alaikum assalam. The request is granted.
MP Eddie Ali, Mr. Speaker.
MP Professor Eddie Ali is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, my brother Majority Floor Leader. Si Justice Abdul Wahid Bidin ng Tawi-Tawi. Siya po ang naunang Filipino Muslim naging justice po ng Supreme Court. And he was appointed by President Cory Aquino. Noong 1987 po yan. So ito po, ang laki po ng pride ng bawat Bangsamoro sa pagka-appoint po kay Justice Jafar Mampao. So if it is okay with the proponent, no, I would like to be identified with this resolution kasi marami po sa atin dito na may Facebook talaga po nag-post tayo bilang pagpapasalamat din kay President Duterte na bilang taga Mindanao na may dugong Maranao na siyang pangalawang presidente ng Pilipinas who appointed a Filipino Muslim in the Supreme Court. Kaya kami po ay taga-tawi-tawi man kami, sinasabi po ni Sister MP Maysara na bilang taga-Marawi po siya, ay masaya rin po siya and he supported the appointment, no? Even the nomination even in the past for our justice. So kami, maski taga-tawi-tawi po kami, ay malaki rin po karangalan ito sa bawat Bangsamoro. Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker.
Maraming salamat po, MP Ali.
Yes, MP Jamila Ramos.
The lady from Tamparan, Wato, and Maguindanao is recognized, MP Ramos.
Also from Taraka, Mr. Speaker.
And the whole of Lano del Sur.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. A very brief manifestation. I'd like to be associated with this resolution because I believe that beside congratulating our good Justice Dima Ampao, we should also thank and give our appreciation to our President, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, because he made things possible during his administration. Actually, Mr. Speaker, I filed the same resolution and hoping also that ma-aprobahan din po ito and to show also our support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, MP Ramos. Any further?
Yes,
So there was an
Speaker,
earlier.
there is a standing motion, Mr.
Yes, so
Speaker.
there's a standing motion, an omnibus motion to dispense with the parliamentary status in reference to proposed resolution number 514 and immediately proceed with its adoption. Any
Mr. Speaker?
objection?
Mr. Speaker, may I move that the entire Bangsamoro Parliament be made a co-author, because this is a historical measure, Mr. Speaker, that we have waited for 34 years for this. So I believe that congratulations not just due to our good Supreme Court Justice Jafar de Mampao, but also to the appointing authority who saw in his good heart and wisdom to give the Muslims a chance to have the second Muslim in the highest court of the land, to help us in our quest for Sharia law development in the Supreme Court as well, Mr. Speaker. So I believe that the President Rodrigo Duterte Duterte, being the second president after 34 years, deserves the highest commendation from the Bangsamoro people. So maybe we can all be co-sponsor, Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
co-author.
Yes, I agree. I agree with the lady from Tugaya. In fact, I would ask the Bangsamoro, the Parliament Publication Office to publish in the online, in their official FB page, that proposed resolution number 514 is supported by all members of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority Parliament and would be considered as co-author. I see the principal author nodding, meaning he's okay with that. So please, BPI, please publish that on your official FB page, that all members are supportive of this and should be considered as co-authors. So there's no objection to the omnibus motion. PR 514 is hereby adopted.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, there being no other agenda, the order of business, I move for the adjournment of this session until tomorrow at 1:30 in the afternoon.
Session is adjourned until tomorrow, 1:30 in the afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.